let's talk about, because trust me, they come in handy. You may now leave the video. There's two big misconceptions about sign language, and the first is that they're universal, which isn't true. There's hundreds of different sign languages all over the world, and they're generally not mutually intelligible. They come from different places, and they work in different ways. The second is that sign languages are just the signed versions of their spoken equivalents, which is definitely not true. For example, American and British English are just dialects of the same language, but American Sign Language and British Sign Language are completely different languages that came from different places. Both of them also work completely differently compared to English, like grammar-wise, so yeah, different languages. A third misconception I'd like to add is that sign languages are only used by deaf people, which also isn't true, but let's talk about them. So strictly speaking, a sign language is just a language that uses the visual and manual side of communication rather than the oral side. Wherever there are deaf people, there are sign languages, which is to say, everywhere, and they often form a very important part of a local deaf community. For the record, the most widely used sign language in the world is Indo-Pakistani Sign Language, the language of more than 15 million people in South Asia. Here are two others you might be interested in. Martha's Vineyard Sign Language was used for a long time on Martha's Vineyard, an island in Massachusetts where hereditary deafness was extremely and unusually common. Because of this, the language was widely used and understood among both deaf and hearing people. A second really cool example is Plains Sign Language, also known as Hand Talk, which emerged as a lingua franca facilitating trade between different groups of people indigenous to the Great Plains region of North America. It's used by deaf and hearing people alike across a vast swath of the continent as both a secondary tool of intercultural communication and just a day-to-day language. Suffice to say, sign languages are not given nearly enough credit for how varied and interesting they are. Hopefully this video encourages you to read even more, because there's a lot of stuff I didn't even mention.
Welcome back to No Stupid Questions, the show where I answer things I was too scared to ask as a beginner. Today we're talking about how to interpret the meaning of your tarot cards. So you asked your question, you pulled your tarot cards, and you're not sure how to apply that to your question. I'm going to teach you what to do. The best way to start is to just look at the meaning of the card itself. You can either Google it or look in the guidebook. For example, here I pulled the Four of Swords, which represents solitude and gathering new strength. So if you asked about future relationships, this card could be telling you that maybe you need to put on the brakes and focus on yourself for a bit. If that first card doesn't make sense, pull another one. Here I pulled the Lovers, which represents harmony, choices, and balance. There's a lot of ways to interpret this, but I see it as a healthy relationship and harmony in the future, but you won't be ready for it unless you listen to the Four of Swords and take some time alone first. So things are looking good relationship-wise, but you need to put on the brakes and think about yourself for a bit. If you're doing a general reading and you're not sure what the card's even talking about, you can look at the suit of the card. For example, Pentacles represent finances and material possessions, Wands represent new ideas and passions, Swords represent decision and action, and Cups represent emotions and creativity. The minor arcana as a whole represent more everyday temporary things, whereas the major arcana have a bigger presence in your life and tend to be larger, more long-term forces. You can also try interpreting the imagery on the card, looking at the little details and analyzing what they might mean. Just remember, practice makes perfect.
This indigenous language of the Americas uses one of my favorite writing systems in the world, and the language is called Inuktitut, which is a language that is part of the Inuktitut language family, which is a language family that runs along the northern border of the North American continent. What's unique about this language is its writing system. It's called Canadian syllabic writing. As the name suggests, it's a syllabary, which is a type of writing system that has one symbol for an entire syllable. For example, Japanese uses a syllabary called hiragana, where one symbol doesn't represent a single consonant or vowel, but rather an entire syllable, in this case, ma. So let's explore how the Canadian syllabic writing system works, specifically when it comes to the Inuktitut language. Here we have the symbol that represents the syllable ti, but if we tilt the orientation of the symbol 90 degrees clockwise, we now get the syllable tu. Now let's flip it horizontally, and now we have the syllable ta. Isn't that cool? The shape of the symbol represents the consonant, while the orientation that it points to represents the vowel sound you're going to make. Same thing with this symbol, we get pi, pu, pa. By the way, previously I stated that the script is a syllabary, but it's not truly considered a syllabary by linguists. It's actually considered an abugida, which is a writing system that writes the consonants and just modifies that single consonant according to what vowel is associated with it. Thanks for watching.
Resistance, women, innocent women and children, no one cares cause they're just Palestinians. Don't care if the building's filled with innocents, heard there's a threat inside, get rid of them. NATO and Yahoo, you can't fool no one, the world see through your terrorism. Last time they done something like this Iraq, how many died? 1 million. This ain't a threat my bro, it's a promise, the land is for Palestinians. Here's a direct message to BBC and something to tell your local MP. I'ma wave my flag, scream free Palestine, they say it's a crime and it means free me.
Please don't scroll. Medical signs in ASL. Let's go! Fever. 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 Headache. 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 Runny nose. Runny nose. Runny nose. Nausea. 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 Break. 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 Temperature. 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 Breathing. breathing, breathing, sprain, 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 pills, 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 pills. Please don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thank you so much.
I have a question for the boys. How much does an oil change cost? Because they told me that I needed special oil because I drive a Volkswagen, so it was like $162. Is that normal? Can someone tell me? Because I'm just a girl.
School in the United States, or are you a teacher? Well, this is what you should either keep in your backpack or in your drawer of your desk in case of an active shooter situation. I'm not going to mince my language once again. Good day, my name is Kitty. It is a displeasure to meet me because the only reason you're seeing this is because you live in an active war zone. So basically what you're going to want to do is either pick a drawer of your desk and or a pocket in your backpack that is your designated protection pocket where you keep these things at all times so that you are aware of where they are. Everyone is going to potentially freeze in a moment. Everything you do to prepare can be for nothing, but the more you are prepared, the less likely you are to freeze, or at least you can get some semblance of a chance to control it. So let's go over some of those things. One of the first and foremost, most important things you need is some form of ear covering or protection. If you are non-combatant, in other words, you know you can't fight, you know you could never fight, life or death, you are going to be playing dead, either way, earplugs, just regular earplugs. Put them in your ears as soon as the lockdown starts. Because when you are going to have those gunshots go off, you are in an enclosed environment with concrete walls and linoleum flooring. It is going to be very, very loud, and this will help. Humans are very auditorily stimulated into both fear and into fight. So if these cover your ears, that will help you out. It will help it be just a smidgen less traumatic because you will not have such clear remembrance of the sounds of the day. If you are dealing with a bunch of small children, you can have earmuffs or otherwise if they can't be trusted to have these in their ears without it just ending up in there forever. This can also help them not hear each other be scared and thus be a little quieter themselves. And in the case of you playing dead, it's just one less thing when it comes to the loud sounds of the gun, and it can inherently help you jump a little less. Of course, you very likely could still well jump. It's going to be loud as hell. Now, if you're a fighter, you want some form of earphone or something like this. I mean, earplugs work too, the regular, but one of the reasons I believe in having some over-the-ear headphone, is because you can basically pick a song to die to. I'm talking some kind of battle video game OST, your favorite movie's OST during the final fight. The reason you do this is, like I said, humans are very auditorily stimulated. This can help amp you up to the fact that you are about to have to literally fight to your own death. Because remember, I'm not trying to help you survive. I'm trying to help you be a problem before you die, because there is no guarantee any of this is going to work, but it can slightly help you out in the moment and give you the best chance in hell you have to go down swinging. So yes, something like that. Any headphone will do, but the over-the-ear ones are just less likely to get jostled and all the hustle and bustle. Moving on. This is just another pair of headphones I have. I hate doing this. A pair of scissors like this, they can be longer, they can be shorter. I will have another video on exactly how to hold scissors and the best places to aim, but one of the things I like about scissors is I can keep a hair tie in one place with them, because if you have longer hair, you should carry at least one, if not two hair ties in this pouch, because if you are going to be combatant, you do want to pull your hair up into a bun as fast as possible and get your bangs out of your face if you have them. Now, if you are going to be non-combatant and you are fully anticipating just pretending to be dead, you want the opposite. You want your hair in your face as much as possible so that if you are laying on the ground, it helps cover some of the movement. It is going to be very hard to control your breathing, so this will just help cover any of those twitches or facial movements. So when you're getting scanned over, hopefully you get fully glossed over. Other things to help with that would be some form of actual face mask, because again, It's just less of your face they can see. So if they are looking to see if you are moving your mouth, if your lips are trembling, if you're breathing, this will hide it. And if your teacher, you are a teacher, or your teacher is using some form of spray defense, as in like the fire extinguisher, as I highly, highly, highly recommend, or wasp spray, bear mace, etc., those particles are not going to be fun. They're going to be in the air, and no matter if you have this or not, it will impact your breathing system and your eyes. But this makes just a little bit of difference, makes it a little bit easier, because remember, when you are doing melee defense, you are in their business, so any kind of spray, you actually want to be close to them when they first get in the room. So something like that, as well as potentially some form of goggles, sunglasses, etc. I don't have any in this bag because I don't need them for this. I know my eyes would be fine, but that will help, especially in the spray. Other things you can have. Now this is sugar, you're going down super swinging mode. I don't recommend this one very much, but it will work. Just a hair, anything for your hair, Axe body spray if it says it's flammable, a small travel size, and a lighter. You have an instant flamethrower. I will also go over that kind of like defense, the pros and cons, etc. on another video. Another thing to potentially have, a metal nail file, something simple like this. Again, I'll go over how to hold it, where to aim, etc. later. Another thing you can have is a small compact mirror. This, if you get stuck on your own somewhere, can help you peer around, as well as just generally know what's going on. Or you could just last minute break it, depending on what it is, and you have a sharp tool. But this is more for just being able to peer around if you get caught solo. Side note, if you get caught solo, unfortunately, I would not recommend actually covering your ears in that case. Maybe just plug one, but you do want to have your ears as open as possible if you get caught out alone in a hallway or a bathroom, because you're going to want to be able to hear them coming. If you're in a classroom, you are not going to need those auditory clues. You are going to know when they are at your door. They're going to be shooting, trying to get through the room or get the bullets through the room. So that's not going to be something that you need necessarily. Also, the lights are likely going to be off. So again, sunglasses work, but you're going to be really pitch black. You are only aiming at one thing, so it's a little easier for you because they're going to be coming in from a light source. But these are just other things to keep in mind. Like I said, keep all of these things in a pocket that you know exactly where it is, and you don't touch it. You don't go in there, you leave it be. The headphones are just an extra pair of headphones, or the earplugs, they stay there, the hair ties, the scissors. I don't care if you just think, oh, well, I just need the nail file like right now, I'll put it right back. Leave it there, get another one. I know some schools don't allow you to keep your backpack with you. I know some schools don't allow you to carry around pouches, etc. Some of these things you can just keep in your pockets or otherwise hidden about. I will show and tell more of that later. This sucks. Remember, if you're charging towards, if you're going combatant, it is best to put this in front of your chest if you're going towards them, because this is where he is aiming. It is your main area. Like, yes, you could get boom headshotted, but at the end of the day, this is the easiest target, your torso. So having this, if you have one of those bulletproof inserts, if you have a couple of thicker textbooks, can make all of the difference between you getting a life-threatening bullet or just getting a real big old bruise. Now, if you're running away, absolutely, you wear this on your back. Basically, your backpack is facing whatever the shooter is facing. If you are wearing a zippered hoodie, zip it up or take it off before you go combatant, because that is, again, something that you could get caught in. My biggest issue with having this in front of you is the fact that it is a little lumpy and frumpy, but at the end of the day, that can actually help you as well, because he's going to be grabbing at this, and it's one more thing to confuse him, while you can easily disengage it at any time and use it to continue to hold him down. Literally, you could put this over his face and just shove down on his head. Makes it a lot harder. Once again, I'll be going over actual like melee last minute, you are not a combat experienced person, kind of like ways to ambush, etc. And if you're about to make any kind of colorful commentary about big time solutions that aren't happening anytime soon, this is not for you. This is for the people who have to deal with this every single day, something that they can start working towards literally today and potentially have to use tomorrow, because these happen all the time. So yeah, I hate this. This is not the most comprehensive list. There are going to be more. There are more Uno reverses, more nuances, more other things that you can have with you. People are going to be typing up in the comments, I am sure. Please do spread this, help boost it, because it's going to need it to get to the people it needs to get to the teenagers and teachers who have to live with this, as well as the literal children who have to deal with this. And if you are somebody who is going to freeze, if you are non-combatant, if you are terrified, that is perfectly normal. I shouldn't have to be giving you this information in the first place. So all I can do is best tell you how to survive or how to play dead, so that you can feel like you know what to do, and that will help you in the moment to actually do it, because all you can do at the end of the day is plan, prepare, and practice. And for those of you teenagers who are filled with an angst-fueled rage, that teenage hormone of anger that you are so well known for, Be the problem you always are known to be. Weaponize that, capitalize on that to make yourself a problem for the person who is absolutely going to take your life. Because you're not going in thinking you're going to survive. You're going in and being like, well, they can give me all the extra holes they want. I am making myself a problem for this before I die. Because I may as well. What else am I going to do? Just sit there? No one else is going to help you. So this is all you can do to help yourself. And I'm fucking sorry.
What's the difference between a service dog, an emotional support dog, and a therapy dog? A service dog is a dog who is task trained to assist their handler with a disability. These dogs go through countless hours of training to make sure that they can behave for public access. For a dog to be a service dog, they must be under control in public at all times, meaning they cannot be acting out, such as barking or lunging at other people or other dogs. They must be housebroken, and of course, trained to do a specific task that helps their handler with their disability. This can be a range of things, including but not limited to alerting to an oncoming seizure, diabetic alerts, guiding someone who is blind, providing mobility assistance, grounding a person during a panic attack, and much, much more. Service dogs are seen as medical equipment in the eyes of the law, and they are protected under the ADA. Because of this, they are allowed pretty much anywhere that their handler goes, with a few exceptions like surgical rooms in hospitals, places of worship, or in any other circumstance where the presence of an animal may alter the goods or services provided to the public. Service animals are not allowed to be denied entry because of allergies or fear of dogs. When a service animal enters a business, they are allowed to ask 2 questions. Is this a service animal, and what tasks has it been trained to perform? They are not allowed to ask for any form of paperwork or documentation for the dog. This is because there is no required form of paperwork for service dogs in the United States. Now, what is an emotional support animal? An emotional support animal is an animal that provides comfort to their handler. They are not required to have any form of training, and they can be any type of animal. Because there is no required training for ESAs, they do not have the same public access rights as service dogs do. ESAs are only allowed to accompany their handlers in pet-friendly locations. They are also protected in non-pet friendly housing. They used to be able to ride planes with their handlers, but due to this being abused, it was revoked. ESAs do not require any form of registration or certification. However, if you are trying to bring them to non-pet friendly housing, they do require a doctor's note. Now, what is a therapy dog? Therapy dogs are dogs that go into places like hospitals to provide comfort to many people. They are not task trained to aid a specific person with a disability. Instead, they aid many people just by comforting them. These dogs are typically certified through organizations that help train and test the dog's temperament to make sure that they can be calm and well-mannered in a place like a hospital or a school. While these dogs are allowed to go into places like hospitals to do their job, they are not allowed to accompany their owners into places like restaurants. When they are going out, they have to be approved by that business, and they must be doing their job as a therapy dog. Most commonly, therapy dogs visit places like hospitals, schools, hospice housing, etc.
I responded to a comment and then I decided I needed to respond in video format too, because this is actually backed up by the best linguistic guess that we have. So when it comes to Shakespeare, there are a couple of different terms that we use when we're talking about his accent. RP is received pronunciation, and that's that BBC, like super posh English accent that you'll hear a lot of people doing. And it used to be the standard for if you're doing Shakespeare, you need to be able to do a received pronunciation accent. That is not the case anymore, thank God. People are being allowed to just use their natural accents much more in Shakespeare, which is great. Another term that we have is OP, or original pronunciation, and this is basically our best guess with linguistic clues as to what Shakespeare's accent would have actually sounded like in his time. I used to be able to do it. I could probably reteach myself, but I'm not going to do it for you today. Now, I am not a linguist, okay? I'm a Shakespearean scholar who focuses mostly on, like, literary stuff, and historical context in that sense. I'm not a linguist, okay? But how we get at that accent, how we make that guess, is basically by looking at how people were describing their own accents in their time, or foreign accents in their time, right? So when people traveled, sometimes they would write in letters or in diaries about how other people sounded, or they would keep record of how people sounded and everything, because people were interested in linguistics back then, too. And we can also look at some of Shakespeare's rhyming and stuff. So there are two scholars who have done a lot of the work on original pronunciation, David and Ben Crystal, their father and son. So if you Google David or Ben Crystal, you'll be able to find all sorts of stuff on YouTube and hear them doing the accent and all sorts of stuff like that. But they also found that when they started applying those linguistic commentary notes that they found in those original texts to the Shakespeare, that they started realizing that stuff that we thought was slant rhymes, or maybe wasn't necessarily meant to rhyme, actually did rhyme. For example, Sonnet 116, let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments, ends with the couplet that ends with proved and loved, which in our modern accents and in the modern English accent do not rhyme. Proved and loved don't rhyme. So people were always kind of like, oh, that's a little funky. In OP, they probably did. The interesting thing about this trend particularly is that if you go and listen to the OP accent, the US Southern accent is much closer to it, to the sound of it, than the current received pronunciation accent in England. Ben Crystal will talk about this, that received pronunciation is very like cut off at the neck. It's very like up here. And there's a lot more groundedness to OP. You're kind of speaking a lot more in your chest voice, which is something that a lot of American accents have in common. Another thing that OP has that the modern English accent sometimes doesn't have is that overpronunciated R. And again, I'm not a linguist. I don't know all of the terms for this. They used to call it, in those original documents from Shakespeare's time, a doggy R, which Americans will make a U shape with their tongue and go at the back of their mouth to say R, whereas there's often like a non-vocalized R in an English accent. The interesting thing about Southern accents is that some of them have that non-rhotic, I remember the word, non-rhotic R, and some of them have that rhotic R. So it also kind of depends on the Southern accent how much it sounds like OP, but sometimes when it's not sounding as much like OP, it sounds a little bit more like English, and so it kind of like fits in that middle realm a little bit well. You'll have to go look at the YouTube videos to hear it, because I can't do the accent for you. But I also think that for Americans particularly, taking Shakespeare out of that association that we have him with of upper crust and upper class, which he was not, his plays never were for, that was something that happened way later with the Victorians, right? Taking out that connotation also just kind of removes a mental barrier, I think. Like, taking away an English accent from Shakespeare, I think genuinely for Americans just makes it feel more accessible by default because it feels less posh. Let me also remind you that Shakespeare lived from the mid to late 1500s to the very early 1600s. 1616 is the year he died. So that means that he was living during the colonization of the Americas, okay? Which means that all of those people who were getting on boats and coming over to the Americas had guess what accent? Now, both American and English accents have developed distinctively from there, like chimpanzees and humans, right? But it makes sense that Shakespeare sounds also correct in an American accent. Anyway, that's why if anyone tells you you absolutely need to learn a received pronunciation accent to do Shakespeare, that's just absolute bullshit. You don't. Shakespeare sounds awesome in a lot of accents. A lot of accents. And actually, putting it in a whole bunch of different accents often even brings out different types of jokes and subtleties in the text. So, why wouldn't you? Anyway, if you are interested in OP versus RP and all of that stuff, David Crystal and Ben Crystal on YouTube. Just Google Ben Crystal OP and you can hear him doing all sorts of different monologues in the accent. And they have a dictionary of OP pronunciation. I've got it at home. It's cool if you're a big nerd.
A new study suggests that the giant prehistoric shark known as Megalodon, which is definitely extinct now today, was probably a little bit thinner than previously thought. Welcome back to Paleopedia, and the Megalodon was a massive prehistoric predatory shark that lived during the Miocene period between 23 and about 3.5 million years ago. Likely at the top of its food chain, Megalodon measured up to potentially around 65 feet in length and likely fed on small baleen whales, which were really common at the time. Based on similarities between its large serrated teeth and jaws, it's been generally assumed that Megalodon likely looked a lot like modern great white sharks, being really stocky, round, built for power when it hunts. However, new research suggests that Megalodon might not have been as stocky as previously thought. It might have actually been a little bit more shaped like mako sharks rather than white sharks. Led by Stearns and DePaul University paleobiology professor Kenshu Shimada, this team of 26 scientists got this hypothesis after looking at 2 previous studies of Megalodon sizes, where each study proposed a different length for the species. These two previous studies were looking at an incomplete set of vertebrae of Megalodon, which is incredibly rare. Shark bones are made of cartilage, so they're really soft and don't fossilize really well. So for the most part, most shark fossils are just of the jaws and the teeth. So a vertebral column of Megalodon is incredibly important, even though it is incomplete. And both of these two studies that inspired this new one were looking at the same specimen with this incomplete vertebral column. And one study put that specimen's length at about 36 feet in length, and the other one put it at about 30 feet in length. This new study is basically suggesting that because we pretty much always compare Megalodon to modern great whites, that we're kind of giving a confirmation bias to the estimated size and body shape of Megalodon itself. By looking at the same fossil evidence of Megalodon that we do have, just like the previous studies did, but also comparing it to not just great whites, but other lamniform sharks as well, the team determined that Megalodon was likely a little bit longer and more slender than previously thought, looking a little bit more like mako sharks rather than white sharks. It's important to note that this doesn't change the fact that Megalodon was probably a top predator in its ecosystem, likely feeding on 15 to 20 foot whales. It just might have behaved slightly differently than previously thought. Specifically, it suggests that if Megalodon was a little bit longer and slender than previously estimated, that it likely didn't have to hunt nearly as much as it might have if it was built more like a great white shark today. Having a longer body means that it had a longer digestive system as well, which means that it was able to absorb nutrients for longer and necessarily didn't need to hunt as much as it might have if it was shorter and bulkier. This is, however, a new angle of study for Megalodon if it was in fact more of a mako shark design rather than a great white shark design. And there's still a lot more research that needs to be done to confirm or counter this proposed study, but it will be really cool to see what we learn with this new potential information.
Is your autistic child fine at school and then completely loses it when they get home? Here's why. This is your autistic child. They get to school, the gate's not open. Substitute teacher. Their best friend isn't there. Sausages at lunch. Their red crayon isn't working. The chairs are scraping on the floor, making that really irritating sound. The lead's broken out their pencil case. You've got to come in 5 minutes early to rehearse a song. No extra playtime because that kid over there was talking. The label on his jumper, his shoes are hurting, the bell's too loud, but it's okay, he's got his lid on. And then he gets home, where he's safe. He's not fine at school. It's after school restraint collapse. It's really common for autistic children.
Hello, I got top surgery 7 days ago, and here are the things that I'm really glad I bought beforehand. Number one is this mastectomy pillow. I put it on immediately after getting out of the hospital and into the car, and basically didn't take it off for like 4 days. You want padding here. You are not going to want anything to touch this, and it's so comfortable. Also the sides that go underneath here, so while you're leaning back, because you're going to be spending a lot of time on your back, this is your friend. Next is this monitor stand that I think is from like Five Below. I used it as a food tray table because, again, you're gonna be sitting in bed for a long time. This way you can have food in front of you and, again, not have to have things in your hands. Okay, other than the tray, this is basically just a pillow haul because I think I got this at Walmart, but these are so helpful. Again, the sides for your arms, and it's so much support because you need to be sleeping at an incline, which is also why we got this, which is an incline pillow. Just put it flat against the bed, and then that way you don't have to lay flat. And then lastly, you guys have called this the flesh pillow. I don't know how I feel about that, but having a neck pillow is super helpful, and again, you won't take this off for like a few days. I didn't, at least. It was so comfortable. Also, this is from Five Below. Having little tiny squishy things that you can put underneath your elbows and whatnot, you don't even think about how many muscles are working to keep your arms up while you're sitting there playing Animal Crossing for 3 days straight, but your arm muscles are gonna get tired. And this bad boy is real helpful. Oh my god, I'm even getting sore just from doing that. That is the most that I've moved today, and I'm tired. If you want to know how mobility is 7 days in. Also, I jinxed it yesterday because now Ducky's eyes are doing rough and she has to wear her donut and she hates her donut. Also, the swelling has gone down enough that my chest is flat now and I'm so happy. I have not been able to stop smiling all day and I'm just happy and this was the right decision and I'm so happy. As usual, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And yeah, have a good day. I will see you tomorrow.
How I wrap a kuffiyeh. Fold it in half like it's a triangle. Point to point. From that center point to the center of your kuffiyeh, grab it, make sure it's equal on both sides, and that center is where you're going to center it on top of your head. Again, make sure it's equal, bring it slightly forward, and fold about 5 centimeters roughly worth back along the front. From the top, you're going to turn both sides slowly inwards. Throw both sides back, knot it, grab everything that's underneath the knot and pull it up. Now tighten all the way. Again, grab the right side, turn it. Remember that flap? Now we're going to tuck it into that flap. Tidy it up however you like. Fix your hair. And there you go. That's how I wrap my kuffiyeh. Hope that helps.
Oh, what was that? You want books by trans and non-binary Palestinian authors? Well, here are some for you that you can either pick up for the rest of the Trans Rights Readathon or just for the rest of the year to support trans and Palestinian authors.
If you want to support Palestinian businesses and you love to eat, this is your complete Palestinian food guide to the tri-state area. In Manhattan, you need to go to Ayat. Please get the fried eggplant. It's my favorite. Sabrina was an eggplant hater and this made her love it. Kanoon, which even has Palestinian wine, which has a really cool history. It's from Taibeh, which is actually home to the first ever brewery in the Middle East and has so much delicious food. However, if you are vegan, do let them know in advance in the DMs like I did. They also have Palestinian olive oil available for retail sale, which makes a great gift. In Brooklyn, you want to go to Tannerine. Tannerine also has wine from Palestine and has an incredible vegan platter that is perfect for sharing. This is a really awesome place to go with a big group because their platters are awesome, amazing for sharing. And Nabla Sweets in Brooklyn for Palestinian desserts. Now let's go to New Jersey. In New Jersey, there is an entire town that has been nicknamed Little Palestine with tons and tons of Palestinian culture and cuisine. I highly recommend Al Basha for amazing Palestinian takeout. Get the Fatah hummus. It is so good. Nabla Sweets for desserts. Mo Cafe for printed Palestinian lattes. And there's even a Palestinian grocery store where I bought some awesome phyllo dough and tahini. And then just a few miles away, there is another Palestinian restaurant in Little Falls called Olive Bistro, which is amazing as well. Now let's go to Philly. First, you need to check out Manna Bakery. It is pickup only at the moment, so you need to slide into the DMs to order, but it is so good. They also have a ton of vegan options, including chocolate cake, chocolate chip cookies, Jerusalem bagels, and focaccia. And then you need to check out Philadelphia Java Co., which is a Palestinian-owned coffee shop that has the nicest owners in the world. Vita is a gelato shop in Philly, which is not Palestinian-owned, but sells sweets from Manna Bakery, which is Palestinian-owned, so that's another way to support. I'm only one person, and I did not get to go to everywhere I wanted to go, so I added more recommendations in the caption. And if you have a Palestinian business or no one, please comment it below so people can support as well.
I've seen the phrase "your body, my choice" going around, so I thought it would be good to discuss which parts of your body to give these men. We're going to start with giving them your hand. Now, there's a lot of breakable bones in here that you can easily shatter by accidentally hitting someone's forehead or their chin, so we're going to want to use our palm unless you've had adequate training to begin with. You're going to want to fold your fingers back to avoid catching them like this and snapping them backwards. Fold them in and then go straight forward. Remember to pull your arm back immediately after punching. Don't give them something to hold on to. Remember, when throwing these, you want to target soft parts of their body, like their throat, solar plex to knock the wind out of them, their liver, which will be on your left side under their rib cage, or the back of their head if you get a chance. Next up, we're going to try to control their reproduction. That's right, I'm talking groin strikes. Bring your knee up and then snap your leg forward, aiming to hit their groin with the flat part of your foot. You can also give them your knee. Grab their shirt by the collarbone and side of their shoulder, pull down forcefully, and drive your knee forward into their groin. Don't forget to stomp people's feet too. There's a lot of breakable bones in the top of your foot, so you want to pick it up, all the way, and then drop straight down using your heel. Now, if they're too close to do any of this, remember, you have to do whatever it takes to develop that distance. So that means going for their eyes, scratching, biting, ripping an ear, whatever it takes in order to run away and yell for help. I hate that making this video feels necessary, but women, stay safe out there, and men, make sure this isn't a problem they have to deal with.